So the music wasn't playing the whole time. It was silent as fuck. Yo, what the fuck kind of technical difficulties am I running in today, bro? Listen, chat, today is that day where I'm just saying, fuck it, we just gonna do the best we can, okay? Look, it's a Saturday night. It's a Saturday night. I hope you're having a good time. I hope you're having a good time. I hope you're enjoying the 2-3 days we're into the year, literally the official third day into the year. So go get you a cold one. Last time we're staying hydrated, but this time go get you a cold one. Get you a solid cold one. Put some ice in that bitch. Let's go shake that around. You see how I should take a little sip. Let's just take a little sip and begin tonight's banter. Cause look, bro, I don't know what the bullshit's going on in your life. I don't know what the issues you got going on. But listen, while you're here, I hope I can entertain you to the fullest. I hope I can make your night a little bit better just by, you know, bullshitting, okay? I've been fucking sticking to the schedule the last day and a half. I've been trying my hardest. I've been trying my fucking hardest to stick to the schedule. So I got a lot of shit done in the last like 24 hours. I feel like at least the shit that I wanted to get done, I have gotten done. So I worked on my car today. I went to the sauna. So I'm telling you, bro, I feel like everybody should focus on getting themselves a good schedule and a good, healthy exercise or hobby that has something to do with their health. And I think sauna and ice bath for me personally is that hobby. I really truly love the fact that the sauna and the ice bath are just phenomenal to me. I know I'm on the bandwagon with fucking you know, Huberman and Joe Rogan and all these other, you know, podcasters that keep talking about the you know, sauna and ice bath, but I feel like they're not speaking bullshit. I feel like there's some truth to it. And I'm truly liking it. I'm truly liking the fact that, you know, the sauna really, bro, it exhausts you and it makes you feel like you got some shit done. I feel like, bro, everybody needs something to get them excited or get them like kind of worn out, you know? So I feel like, you know, going to the sauna, it gives me that excitement to, oh shit, I got to do that. I have to get up and get out. Especially on the weekends, bro. That's a peak degenerate behavior on the weekends. Whenever I'm like fucking sleeping until like 2-3 p.m. I started making sure I have the sauna at like 3 or at least at a reasonable time. Depends on when the appointment is. I always book it that day, so it's like sometimes I have some bullshit that comes up and I cannot book it in time. But I feel like a lot of times I genuinely feel like it gives me something to be at and it gives me something to focus on, so I can get there in time, right? I don't want to waste a Saturday till like 4 p.m. in bed, because when you do that, when you don't have a schedule, when you don't have something written down, like I gotta do this, I gotta do that, you may spend like fucking 5 p.m. on TikTok and you're like, yo, fuck it, the day's already gone. I might as well stay in bed till like 9 p.m., you know? I feel like the one thing I learned from Joey Diaz is like, bro, just get up and get out, bro. That's it. You just got to take a walk around the neighborhood. Do something outside. Like, I feel like getting up and getting outside gives you at least something to do. It gives you a reason to like, just be alive, right? A lot of people get stuck in the room and kind of get stuck in the house in a 4 fucking wall room and you're not doing nothing else and all you're focused on is just that room. So I feel like giving yourself a reason to be outside, whether it be going to the park, because that's genuinely what I'm focused on recently is going to the park a little bit more, chat. I feel like I personally have been enjoying, you know, the walks in the park, even though I've only taken like 1 or 2 in the last like month. But that has kind of given me a reason, a deep reason to keep pushing forward. Because I feel like going to the park, you see a lot of people just walking around, families. It's a very wholesome, nice activity, right? So I genuinely think it gives you a sense of it's okay, you know, let's just calm down. Being in nature, being around trees, being around water, being around some kind of nature thing it gives you a sense of like calm. It gives you a grounding sensation, right? And speaking of fucking grounding, I need to figure my ground wire in my fucking Nissan, bro, because my ground wire is been fucking causing me a shitload of problems in that car. I don't know if y'all motherfuckers know about car things. I don't know if y'all know about any of that, but in the last fucking month or so, I've realized that it's not my battery issue. It's a ground wire issue in the car for shit to like start turning off, random error codes, thing blinking off, like just random shit. And I feel like I really need to get to the bottom of that because I am genuinely annoyed at the fact that I have not pinpointed that, because it's such a simple issue. Ground wire is such a simple issue. You just don't think about it. It's like, I just don't know. I don't know. It was just dumb as hell. But here we are. I had to go to AutoZone, pay $200, $199.99. So 200, almost 1 cent off from 200 exact dollars, to figure out that it's not just the battery issue, because battery issue is obviously, you know, prevalent. It's going on. I knew that because the car wouldn't turn on. But the ground wire was the one draining it. So today I feel like, you know, I've kind of worked up my Camry to where I got a lot done. I got a lot of things out of the way on the Camry, so I wanted to, you know, put that to the side. Now is time to put the effort towards the Nissan, and I feel like I might have to park that bitch for the next 3 months, bro. 3 months is gonna be at least the timeline. If I can focus and I can lock in for 1 month, it will be done. But realistically, it might be a 3-month journey to get all that shit done. I genuinely think so. I don't know. I will have to find out for real and really see how much effort I can put in. But I definitely think I need 4 sessions. So I would say 1 session per week on that Nissan, couple hours a day, every week. And some weeks I'm sure I'm gonna forget. But if I can lock in on the Nissan and get that car popping, bro, I'll be so happy. Right now, I'm having issues with the wiring, so the fucking wheel is locking up, so I can't really drive it unless I want the, you know, the wheel to lock up. But it is what it is. Tonight, I just wanted to get on here real quick, kind of just hop on here, get a cold one into my system. And just kind of check in with the squad, check in with the chat, check in with my boys. I feel like in the last 30 days, I've been kind of lacking, man. I've been kind of not really having that inspiration, that little art, like the artist feeling of wanting to create. The last month, bro, any day I've kind of had that little spark. I wanted to go to a comedy show and I find out they fucking canceled it or they didn't want to do it. I don't know. I've been complaining about that in the last, you know, month. I've been complaining about it every stream, but here we are. I wanted to just get on here, wanted to get at least a quick little stream, kind of run through it, because I do want to go out in these streets tonight. I have some homies performing at, you know, a club, so I want to go see where the fuck, you know, what's good. That's what I want to see. So we shall see how long it'll take. We shall see how long I can run this stream. It might be fucking 1 hour, it might be 1 day. I don't know. We'll see. But right now, I feel like we need to hit the fucking YouTubes. The pain of becoming yourself. Look, we shall see. We shall see.
That's it. No big deal. Just 3 stories. The first story is about connecting the dots. I dropped out of Reed College after the first 6 months, but then stayed around as a drop-in for another 18 months or so before I really quit. So why'd I drop out? It started before I was born. My biological mother was a young, unwed graduate student, and she decided to put me up for adoption. She felt very strongly that I should be adopted by college graduates, so everything was all set for me to be adopted at birth by a lawyer and his wife. Except that when I popped out, they decided at the last minute that they really wanted a girl. So my parents, who were on a waiting list, got a call in the middle of the night asking, "We've got an unexpected baby boy. Do you want him?" They said, "Of course." My biological mother found out later that my mother had never graduated from college and that my father had never graduated from high school. She refused to sign the final adoption papers. She only relented a few months later when my parents promised that I would go to college. This was the start in my life. And 17 years later, I did go to college. But I naively chose a college that was almost as expensive as Stanford. And all of my working class parents' savings were being spent on my college tuition. After 6 months, I couldn't see the value in it. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and no idea how college was going to help me figure it out. And here I was, spending all of the money my parents had saved their entire life. So I decided to drop out and trust that it would all work out okay. It was pretty scary at the time, but looking back, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. The minute I dropped out, I could stop taking the required classes that didn't interest me and begin dropping in on the ones that looked far more interesting. It wasn't all romantic. I didn't have a dorm room, so I slept on the floor in friends' rooms. I returned Coke bottles for the 5-cent deposits to buy food with. And I would walk the 7 miles across town every Sunday night to get one good meal a week at the Hare Krishna temple. I loved it. And much of what I stumbled into by following my curiosity and intuition turned out to be priceless later on. Let me give you one example. Reed College at that time offered perhaps the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Throughout the campus, every poster, every label on every drawer was beautifully hand calligraphed. Because I had dropped out and didn't have to take the normal classes, I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do this. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the amount of space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, historical, artistically subtle in a way that science can't capture, and I found it fascinating. None of this had even a hope of any practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. And we designed it all into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I had never dropped in on that single course in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. And since Windows just copied the Mac, it's likely that no personal computer would have them. If I had never dropped out, I would have never dropped in on that calligraphy class, and personal computers might not have the wonderful typography that they do. Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very
I wish
clear looking backwards
something like
10
that,
years later.
you know, is useful for me. I've taken a lot of bullshit courses, a lot of courses I've taken multiple times just because, I didn't do well the first time.
Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference. My second story is about love and loss. I was lucky. I found what I loved to do early in life. Woz and I started Apple in my parents' garage when I was 20. We worked hard, and in 10 years, Apple had grown from just the two of us in a garage into a $2 billion company with over 4,000 employees. We just released our finest creation, the Macintosh, a year earlier, and I just turned 30.
Damn, what the fuck am I doing? I'm fucking 26 years old. God damn it, I got 4 years. I got 4 more years to lock in.
I got fired. How can you get fired from a company you started? Well, as Apple grew, we hired someone who I thought was very talented to run the company with me. And for the first year or so, things went well. But then our visions of the future began to diverge, and eventually we had a falling out. When we did, our board of directors sided with him. And so at 30, I was out, and very publicly out. What had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone, and it was devastating. I really didn't know what to do for a few months.
That's me driving back from an open mic, just screaming in the fucking car because I just bombed in front of 2 people, drove 2 hours there, bombed, and then drove back.
I felt that I had let the previous generation of entrepreneurs down, that I had dropped the baton as it was being passed to me. I met with David Packard and Bob Noyce and tried to apologize for screwing up so badly. I was a very public failure, and I even thought about running away from the Valley. But something slowly began to dawn on me. I still loved what I did. The turn of events at Apple had not changed that one bit. I'd been rejected, but I was still in love. And so I decided to start over. I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. During the next 5 years, I started a company named Next, another company named Pixar, and
that's
fell in
the
love
craziest part, bro. He fucking, oh my God, he started Pixar's. It's crazy,
with an amazing woman who would become my wife. Pixar went on to create the world's first computer animated feature film, Toy Story, and is now the most successful animation studio in the world. In a remarkable turn of events, Apple bought Next, and I returned to Apple, and the technology we developed at Next is at the heart of Apple's current renaissance. And Lorene and I have a wonderful family together. I'm pretty sure.
Imagine your dad is Steve Jobs, bro. That's the craziest part. Like, what can you do to top your dad, bro? Like, pause. Pause. I mean, what I mean by that is, like, what can you do that will, like, literally be better than what your dad has done, right? So
none of this would have happened if I hadn't been fired from Apple. It was awful tasting medicine, but I guess the patient needed it. Sometimes life's gonna hit you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. I'm convinced that the only thing that kept me going was that I loved what I did. You've got to find what you love, and that is as true for work as it is for your lovers. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking, and don't settle. As with all matters of the heart,
stand up, bro.
You'll know when you find it. And like any great relationship, it just gets better and better as the years roll on. So keep looking, don't settle. My third story is about death. When I was 17, I read a quote that went something like, "If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right." It made an impression on me, and since then, for the past 33 years, I've looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. About a year ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. I had a scan at 7:30 in the morning, and it clearly showed a tumor on my pancreas. I didn't even know what a pancreas was.
Damn.
The doctors told me this was almost certainly a type of cancer that is incurable, and that I should expect to live no longer than 3 to 6 months. My doctor advised me to go home and get my affairs in order, which is doctor's code for prepare to die. It means to try and tell your kids everything you thought you'd have the next 10 years to tell them in just a few months. It means to make sure everything is buttoned up so that it will be as easy as possible for your family. It means to say your goodbyes. I lived with that diagnosis all day. Later that evening, I had a biopsy.
Hey, you gotta just start smoking that dope. You gotta just start smoking that loud pack after that. It's over.
Where they stuck an endoscope down my throat, through my stomach and into my intestines, put a needle into my pancreas and got a few cells from the tumor. I was sedated, but my wife, who was there, told me that when they viewed the cells under a microscope, the doctors started crying because it turned out to be a very rare form of pancreatic cancer that is curable with surgery. I had the surgery, and thankfully, I'm fine now.
But didn't he end up dying? Okay.
This was the closest I've been to facing death, and I hope it's the closest I get for a few more decades. Having lived through it, I can now say this to you with a bit more certainty than when death was a useful but purely intellectual concept. No one wants to die. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there. And yet, death is the destination we all share. No one has ever escaped it. And that is as it should be, because death is very likely the single best invention of life. It's life's change agent. It clears out the old to make way for the new. Right now, the new is you. But someday, not too long from now, you will gradually become the old and be cleared away. Sorry to be so dramatic, but it's quite true. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. When I was young, there was an amazing publication called the Whole Earth Catalog, which was one of the Bibles of my generation. It was created by a fellow named Stuart Brand, not far from here in Menlo Park, and he brought it to life with his poetic touch. This was in the late 60s, before personal computers and desktop publishing, so it was all made with typewriters, scissors, and Polaroid cameras. It was sort of like Google in paperback form 35 years before Google came along. It was idealistic, overflowing with neat tools and great notions. Stuart and his team put out several issues of the Whole Earth Catalog, and then, when it had run its course, they put out a final issue. It was the mid-1970s, and I was your age. On the back cover of their final issue was a photograph of an early morning country road, the kind you might find yourself hitchhiking on if you were so adventurous. Beneath it were the words, "Stay hungry, stay foolish." It was their farewell message as they signed off. Stay hungry, stay foolish. And I have always wished that for myself. And now, as you graduate to begin anew, I wish that for you. Stay hungry, stay foolish. Thank you all very much.
Damn, that's deep as hell. Hey, stay hungry and stay foolish, okay? Words of a wise man, you know? What can I say? I mean, I think, you know, keeping that inner child there and keeping that inner energy of foolishness there is I think very necessary to keep moving forward in this world, because I think that is a very, very key element of being happy, being successful, and being just able to move forward with life. Because sometimes, bro, I feel like people become too sad and gloomy because of the fact that, bro, they're told to grow up, they're told to, you know, lock in for real, you know, so they end up, you know, not being able to have fun, not being able to enjoy themselves like they should. And I genuinely feel like, you know, it's kind of sad. Like, a lot of people don't end up you know, enjoying life just because of the fact that a lot of people just are like, hey, I want to make, you know, somebody else proud, somebody else happy. And I'm faulty for that too, Chad. I'm there with y'all. But look, sometimes you just have to follow the heart. Sometimes you just have to follow the soul. But today we're going to follow Why This Island Could Trigger World War III by Johnny Harris, okay? Let's see it. Let's see it.
It's the 1940s, and China is ripping itself apart. The ruling government is quickly losing the country to a rising communist revolution. It's a well-organized military movement supported by the Soviet Union, led by revolutionary Mao Zedong, and they're now marching across the country, driving out the ruling government all the way down to here, where the government leaders and over 1 million loyalists and soldiers retreat on boats and planes across this strait to a Chinese island that had been taken over by Japan but had just been liberated. Mao's fighters can't go any further. They can't reach the island without a proper navy or air force, which they did not have yet. For now, the near-defeated Republic of China is safe on this island. And this isn't just any island. 400 years before this, Portuguese explorers arrived here. Ilha Formosa, or Beautiful Island. It was sought after by empires from Europe to Asia for its fertile land and strategic military and trade location at the heart of Asia's ocean corridors. China had lost this island for 50 years to Japan, but the winners of World War II said that China would get it back. The island was called Taiwan, and now it was home to the Republic of China's government. They're safe here for now. Back here on the mainland, Mao declares the People's Republic of China, a new communist nation that was to restore the greatness of the Chinese nation after years of domination by outsiders. Literally a day later, the Soviet Union recognizes Mao's government.
Damn, how big Russia... Oh my god, that's huge. I did not realize Russia was that fucking big, bro.
The legitimate government of China. But this civil war isn't actually over. Both sides still claim to be the rightful government of China, and the Republic of China government plans to continue to fight from their island refuge to eventually take back the mainland. They rule the island with a military government that arrests, imprisons, or executes anyone suspected of disloyalty or communist sympathy, or anyone who wants independence from all of this. Meanwhile, Mao is working on his navy, getting ready to cross this strait. He's gathering his forces and building his capabilities to be able to complete his takeover of the entire country. But not yet. Now, the US is out here in a big way. They just defeated Japan in World War II. They're kind of trying to leave Asia, and they're eyeing all of this and deciding to not get involved. They don't recognize Mao's new country, the PRC, and they do hate that a communist government now controls the world's most populous country. But they have other priorities, namely rebuilding Europe after the big war. They've just created a big military alliance with their European allies to counter Soviet influence. The Soviet Union was their friend in the war, but is now their rival. Oh, and they just got nuclear weapons like the US did 4 years earlier.
Just turn it into a parking lot, bro. Just drop a nuke somewhere, right here, and then just, build a Walmart.
President Truman's Secretary of State draws this line on a map, shows it to people at a press conference, saying that anything outside this zone is outside of America's defense commitments. This includes Korea and Taiwan that, remember, the US said would be given back to China after the war, and Vietnam, where local communist fighters are kicking out the French, declaring a new communist country that is being recognized by China and the Soviet Union. This is all concerning to the United States, but this is outside of their perimeter. Back in Washington, the communist hawks are hating that the US is letting communism spread in Asia, that Taiwan will soon fall. But Truman says this is a civil conflict in China. We're going to leave it to them to work out. That's the policy. That is until everything changes all at once. It's a morning in the summer of 1950, and a flood of Korean troops from the Soviet-aligned side of Korea rush across this line. They tear through the American-aligned South, almost taking the whole country in just 11 weeks. It's another quick communist revolution. And these soldiers are equipped with Soviet guns, tanks, and artillery. They invaded only after getting the green light from the Soviet leader Joseph Stalin, who also, by the way, said they needed to get the green light from Mao. Now, Mao had been hesitant to support this invasion of Korea, knowing that it might invite the wrath of the United States, but he had to show that he was willing to support communist revolutions everywhere. Eventually, he would commit some of his troops to go fight in Korea to help his fellow communists liberate the Korean peninsula. Now, the US doesn't have troops in Korea in this moment. Remember, it's outside of their perimeter, but now they're starting to change their mind. This is starting to look like a coordinated communist conspiracy all across the region. It's threatening to turn the whole map red.
Nuke! No,
But there's still time to push it back. The US crosses the line that they drew a few months earlier and goes full force to stop the spread of communism. Truman tells the nation that he's sending troops to Korea, and in the same speech, he also says that he's ordered a huge naval fleet to Taiwan to, quote, prevent any attack. He's not going to let Mao take the island now. And to justify this sudden U-turn, Truman says something that will influence how the US approaches this situation to this day. He says that Taiwan isn't actually officially a part of any country yet. It had been a Japanese colony until 1945, when Japan surrendered it when they lost the war. But they technically haven't worked out their sovereignty in any official treaty yet. So for now, Taiwan's status is technically undetermined, which makes it okay for us, the United States, to move in and protect it from Mao. Now, Mao is looking at all of this, and I can imagine he's feeling some regret over the green light he gave the North Koreans to invade the South. It was looking more like a strategic error, which brought the US into his neighborhood, prevented him from taking this island. And so, for the next 3 years, this brutal Korean War rages on. It eventually settles into a tense stalemate that still hasn't ended. So it's 1953, and it's looking like the US is going to be in Asia for a while, all in the name of containing the spread of communism, which they do by building out a chain of island bases that form this line of defense against their communist enemies. And you can see that Taiwan is right at the center of it. Congress gives the president full authorization to defend Taiwan. The president is allowed to put nukes on the island.
Ooh.
Mao, meanwhile, is reshaping his country in huge ways, and he needs to drum up support from his people, which he does by initiating an attack, unleashing tens of thousands of rounds of artillery on these close-by islands that the Republic of China still controls. The US wants to show Mao how serious they are about coming to Taiwan's defense. US military planners draw up plans to drop nukes on the PRC. In one plan, they calculate up to 1 million potential casualties if they do the attack. But they never do. But they do send in a huge armada of military hardware. 2 super aircraft carriers and their destroyer convoys, 56 combat aircraft, a bunch of their most high-end missiles capable of deploying nuclear weapons, not to mention all the backup in Japan and the Philippines. The US is there, making good on its promise to defend their strategically important island, to keep supply lines open and force Mao to think twice before invading. Now this is looking like the beginning of another bloody war, which is exactly what the Soviet leader back in Moscow is thinking. He sends a telegram to the United States, a pretty long telegram, telling them to back down. This hasty military buildup with nukes that
He said, bro, chill. No need to crash out right now.
all concerning a Chinese island that was
But
never
would you
theirs.
crash out?
He says
over
this is
some
an open
Asian
provocation.
baddies, bro? Some Taiwanese baddies, bro?
And then he reminds the US that China isn't alone. China and the Soviet Union are friends, brothers in communism. And he says that an attack on China will be treated as an attack against the Soviet Union, which will lead to World War III, this time with nukes. Then he signs it. Sincerely, N. Khrushchev. I mean, this is a tense moment, but ultimately, both sides back down. But not really. The US keeps tens of thousands of troops here. They keep their nukes ready to go. And right here across the strait, neither of the two Chinas want the other to have the last shot. So they keep shooting a few shells at each other every day, eventually settling into this weird rhythm. Mao's PRC troops fire a few shells. The next day, the Republic of China troops on Taiwan would fire a few shells of their own. Never hitting anything valuable or lethal, but just a reminder that tension is high. They will go on to do this every day for the next 21 years.
Why? I mean, bro, at that point, you just like fucking teasing each other, bro. Like, what the fuck? Fucking drop the nuke already.
Okay, so we just narrowly avoided World War III, and things are about to dramatically change here. But first, I should probably thank today's anything. It's very end of the 1950s. We're moving into the 60s, and the US is very much in Asia, obsessed with stopping the spread of communism, including in Vietnam. They have this defensive island chain on the map with Taiwan at its center. Tensions continue to rise, and in 1960, the US puts nuclear weapons on the island itself. Over here, the Soviet
Bro, fuck
Union
it, just nuke Taiwan. Fuck it, just turn it into a parking lot, bro.
is heavily supporting the new People's Republic of China, including helping them develop and deploy nuclear weapons, which China officially gets in 1964. So now things are a lot more tense right here. But it doesn't take long before this relationship starts to shift. These two communist empires start to diverge. They start to disagree on how each other is carrying out the communist promise. Mao is radically and violently transforming his China, punishing anyone he sees as disloyal, running huge societal experiments on farming and the economy. And it's not working. Crops are failing, food is disappearing, tens of millions of people are starving. The Soviets see Mao as reckless, unpredictable, destabilizing, and ungrateful for all of this support that they've been giving him. Meanwhile, Mao is falling out of love with the Soviets as well, saying that they're too accommodating to the capitalist West, not real Marxists. Tension rises fast, and soon they're clashing at their shared border. The Soviets are threatening to strike China's nuclear facilities that they just helped them build. And look who comes into the scene. This is a huge moment for the US, who is watching this big communist alliance fracture.
You watching your main bitch and your side bitch fighting, so you gotta step in. Hey, hold on. This dick can serve both.
What if they could divide them even further?
Yo!
Richard Nixon becomes president in 1969, and he's intent on playing the China card against the Soviets. And he does so by sending his national security advisor, Henry Kissinger, to secretly start communicating with the Chinese. The US had no formal relations with China. They were enemies. They didn't talk to each other. So Kissinger had to talk to the Chinese using Pakistan as a middleman. They send messages. They arrange.
When did the big P become Pakistan? I will die for Pakistan!
To meeting, and soon Kissinger flies to Pakistan, says that he needs some rest, but secretly he sneaks onto a plane that takes him to Beijing, breaking into this place that has been cut off for 2 decades. Now, why is Mao entertaining this cozying up to his enemy, the Americans? Well, he's concluded that the Soviet Union, who has weapons pointed at China at this point, is a more immediate danger, and that the Americans are maybe willing to bargain about this. But not if they still have troops and nukes on Taiwan, their giant military base right off his coast. So here's Kissinger in this huge moment in the story. He's in Beijing talking to Prime Minister Zhou Enlai, Mao's right-hand man, and the conversation almost immediately goes to Taiwan. The Prime Minister is sharp on his historical details, and he starts off by telling Kissinger basically the story that I've told you so far. He reminds Kissinger that after World War II, Truman was okay with Taiwan being a part of China. That is until he suddenly changed his mind when the Korean War broke out, and starts calling Taiwan's status undetermined, a stance China deeply rejects. And then suddenly, the US takes over Taiwan, a Chinese island, and turns it into basically a huge military base with nuclear weapons, 130 kilometers off the Chinese mainland, and the center of a military effort to contain China and its neighbors. Kissinger agrees with this. He says blatantly in this private conversation that if the Korean War didn't happen, Taiwan would probably belong to the PRC. But he says previous administrations made Taiwan a key part of the Korean War. So here we are. But then he says, we're different now. We're no longer going after communism for communism's sake. The new President Nixon, quote, operates on a different philosophy. We can be friends even if you're communists. Now, Kissinger's main goal is to befriend the PRC to divide it from the Soviet Union. But even with that in mind, Prime Minister Zhou says that he trusts Kissinger. He believes him. But then he says that the key question is if the US is ready to recognize that Taiwan's status is not undetermined, that it is a part of China, and that there is only one China. He says, quote, this is the crux. Nothing can happen unless we agree to that. And Kissinger says, yes, we're not advocating for two Chinas or one China and one Taiwan, but look at the language in this transcript. He vaguely remarks that, quote, as a student of history, one's prediction would have it be that the political evolution is likely to be in the direction that the PRC wants. This is a tactfully vague way of saying that Taiwan will probably be reunited with the PRC, but we'll see. Kissinger is kind of...
You gotta hit him with the we'll see. Hey, I'm not even gonna lie to you, bro. That's how you gotta treat your side chick, bro. If she starts acting up and she starts hitting you with the, oh my God, you don't even got, like all kinds of bullshit. We'll see if you still in the lineup. We'll see if you deserve this attention.
Here, at least in the words of one expert I talked to. But again, his goal is to get leverage over the Soviets. So he's willing to give something up to the Chinese. He promises to not support any independence movements in Taiwan, and he even says that the US will take out all their troops. But in return, he needs the PRC to tell the communist fighters that they're supporting in Vietnam to negotiate a peace deal, to release American prisoners of war so that the US can leave Vietnam. And Joe's like, we'll try. And soon there's a sense of agreement in the room. The Prime Minister says he's hopeful. It sounds like these enemies are taking the first steps towards friendship. And soon, everything changes once again really quick. Hey, before we continue, I need to tell you about the platform we believe our store only open to them.
My bad, bro.
The People's
I'm sorry.
Republic of China is adopted into the UN. Taiwan gets kicked out. President Nixon then goes to China, totally publicly, and announces that they're starting to talk to each other, that friendship is in the near future. They aren't officially recognizing the PRC as a real country, but they're warming up. During this visit, Nixon has some secret talks with Zhou Enlai, Mao's right-hand man who Kissinger had negotiated with. The declassified transcript of these private conversations contains a moment where Nixon, straight up, in his own words, acknowledges that, quote, there is one China. Taiwan is a part of China. And then he says that if he could control the American bureaucracy back home, he would tell them to do away with referring to Taiwan's status as undetermined. That was not American policy towards Taiwan, but you can almost feel how eager Nixon is to make this friendship work, to divide the Soviets from their big ally. But he's kind of getting ahead of his skis. So it's 1972, and Nixon and Kissinger have successfully pulled off this rebalancing. They've gained a ton of leverage over the Soviets by dividing them from the Chinese and then starting to befriend them. And then the Vietnam War ends. Not quite with the support from China that Kissinger had envisioned, but the troops are gone, which lowers tensions even more. In 1974, the US takes its nukes off the island, another down payment towards full friendship. Soon after, Mao, the revolutionary who started this country, dies, and the leaders who take his place come in much more open to trade in the global markets. The US sees huge potential here. So in the late 70s, President Jimmy Carter finishes what Kissinger and Nixon had started a few years earlier. The US officially recognizes the People's Republic of China as the only China, no longer recognizing Taiwan. They move their China embassy from Taipei to Beijing. More countries are flipping as well. At this same time, the US erases the treaty that says that they would protect Taiwan. They remove all troops from the island. And that shooting match that had been going on for years every day, that finally stops. Capitalism with Chinese
I guess that's kind of good, but Taiwan does get dicked down in the end, you know?
Characteristics is taking off, and these two are trading, reshaping the global economy. It's a monumental shift in just a few years, and just as Kissinger and Nixon wanted, it weakened and isolated the Soviet Union, and it started a new era for Chinese-American relations. But notice that in all of this, even during all the friendship, all the visits, the US never publicly acknowledges what Nixon said in private, that Taiwan is a part of China. They recognize that Beijing thinks this, but they continue to operate with the ambiguous policy that Truman laid out in the 50s, that Taiwan's status is undetermined. In a short time, Taiwan went from core ally to diplomatic orphan on the world stage. And many Americans
they low-key got shafted, bro.
Members of Congress didn't feel right about abandoning an ally that, by the way, is changing into a more open and developed economy and society. We're abandoning them all to embrace a communist, authoritarian former enemy? What message does this send to our other allies? So while Carter is normalizing relations, Congress is passing a law to reassure Taiwan. The law says, yes, the US doesn't recognize Taiwan as a country, but we will still support it as a partner. And crucially, the law says that even though the troops are leaving, the US is required to sell weapons to Taiwan so that they can defend themselves. And finally, if that wasn't enough, the US will
They just wanted the bag, to be honest. They just like, bro, let's just be real. They just wanted the bag, bro.
maintain capabilities to come to Taiwan's rescue if they're ever to be invaded. But they stopped short of saying that they actually would come to their rescue. It was intentionally crafted to be ambiguous, to give reassurance to Taiwan so that they didn't go declare independence, cause a conflict, but not to make promises that would anger China, who, by the way, sees this law as cheating the spirit of their agreement, seeing the US as an insincere friend. Because remember, China's position here is that they are officially the government of China, which includes Taiwan, which was to be given back to China after World War II. The Allies said they would, and that Taiwan would be like any other part of China today if the US hadn't stepped in the 1950s. That's their position. And they begin a campaign to try to convince Taiwan to come back into China peacefully, but it's becoming too late. This whole time, Taiwan has been transforming, its economy looking like one of those miracles. And by now, it's replaced its decades of military dictatorship with a democracy. It's the 1990s, and they're holding elections for the first time on the island. The US is loving this. They want to support it. They give one of the candidates in the election a visa to come visit the United States. And for China, this has gone too far. They immediately recall their ambassador from Washington, D.C. They amass 100,000 troops across the Strait of Taiwan, right here at this strait. They launch missiles, including ballistic missiles that land 20 miles northwest of the island. There's warships and aircraft. They're threatening the island, warning them against embracing democracy in the United States. But here comes the response. It's March 1996, and the US sends 2 aircraft carrier battle groups to the waters near Taiwan. It's the largest show of force in this region since Vietnam. The standoff dies down, and while all of this is happening, on the island, this first democratic election goes forward peacefully. Taiwanese voters turn out in huge
Why is
numbers.
McDonald's everywhere, bro?
76%. They're defying this attempt to be bullied by their big neighbor who they identify less and less with. And the world watches as a symbol of democracy flourishes in the shadow of the intimidation of their huge neighbor. A neighbor who becomes infamous for massacring peaceful pro-democracy protesters in Tiananmen Square. A democratic
That is nowhere to
Taiwan,
be found
supported
on
by the
Google.
US, is reversing some of this warmth and friendship that was cultivated in the 70s and 80s. Tension is back, especially now that it's the 90s and the Soviet Union has collapsed. They no longer have a mutual enemy. And once again, Taiwan is at the center of this growing tension. But by now, the island knows how disposable the US can treat them if they lose their strategic value. So they continue to position themselves in a way that will result in protection from the United States. The government has been subsidizing companies that are becoming top manufacturers of these valuable little silicon chips, semiconductors that make computers work. These microchips are becoming more and more vital to economic and military power. And if Taiwan can become the epicenter of making them, then the US will have more of an incentive to protect them, to keep this valuable capability out of Beijing's control. This works tremendously well. And by the 2000s, valuable technology companies like Apple and AMD and Qualcomm have outsourced the incredibly expensive and complex task of manufacturing microchips to Taiwan firms. One in particular. One microchip company wouldn't even exist without Taiwan to make their chips. That's NVIDIA. So there's tension here.
Imagine, bro, China is like, fuck it. They just start bombing these chip
doesn't stop China from trading with the US and the rest of the world, resulting in economic growth like the world has never seen. They become rich really fast. And with that, they build a world-class military. And even after all of these years, they still remind the world that they are set on finishing the civil war that the US stopped them from completing, reunifying with Taiwan, who they see slipping further and further away. In 2005, Beijing passes this anti-secession law, which says that China will pursue unification with Taiwan by peaceful means, but they reserve the right to use, quote, non-peaceful means if Taiwan moves towards formal independence or if peaceful unification becomes impossible. The United States disagrees with this. Under their One China policy, Washington acknowledges China's position, but it doesn't endorse it. And it says that Taiwan's future must be decided peacefully, without coercion, and with agreement of people on both sides of the strait. But even despite this law, relations across the strait start improving in the 90s and 2000s, thanks mostly to economics, mutually beneficial deals. And the PRC continues to incentivize some kind of peaceful reunification with Taiwan, telling them that they can keep their way of life and their system. There seems to be some hope in the air here, but that quickly fades as nationalism starts to rise on both sides of the strait and across the ocean. The modern-day version of this conflict is overseen by Xi Jinping, who rises to lead the PRC in 2012 with the vision of rejuvenating the Chinese nation. This includes fortifying their territory, including first and foremost Taiwan, a symbol of this effort, who, quote, must be reunited with the mainland, according to Xi. This vision has been paired with a rapid growth of the Chinese army, and the US now sees China as their greatest rival, and has responded with a military buildup of their own in this region, resurrecting that old island chain. It's been tech wars and tariffs and sanctions and bluster, and the relationship between these two great powers has deteriorated in recent years for reasons that have little or nothing to do.
Let me just be honest, chat. Do y'all think we need a little war? Do y'all think we need a war? I feel like at this point, bro, we low-key need something to unite us and get us locked in on like a war. I genuinely feel like if we lock in, get a war going, we're all gonna fucking just prosper and do better. I just think that's necessary right now.
With Taiwan, but that serve as a reminder that this decades-old balance that keeps peace here is deeply reliant on what happens between these two superpowers. Meanwhile, the 23 million people on this island continue to develop their own identity. Only around 12% of the population favors any kind of reunification with the mainland. And yet, China continues to flex on Taiwan. They fire missiles over the island, they practice invasion drills, they send ships and jets to block Taiwan's sea and airspace for days. They show them just how easy it would be for them to take this little island. That is, if the US doesn't come to their rescue. And everybody asks, would they come? The US uses that intentional ambiguity to keep this tense situation somewhat stable. And, as planned, Taiwan now manufactures 90% of the most advanced microchips, the chips that have made NVIDIA the most valuable company in the world. And official US government policy still says that Taiwan's status is undetermined, operating with this intentional strategic ambiguity that at once keeps the situation stable, but also precarious and unpredictable, especially as Sino-American relations deteriorate. And Taiwan continues the 75-year-old story of living at the center of these big countries struggling for power, and wielding the psychological tools of ambiguity and deterrence that keep all sides guessing.
Hey, W video, bro. Johnny Harris somehow, some way, always comes through with these fire documentaries, bro. I'm not even gonna lie to you, bro. Somehow, some way, Johnny Harris got that documentary, YouTube documentary shit on lock, bro. I can't even lie to you, bro. Whenever I know his videos are up, I know that shit about to be fire. So I hope you fucking like that. I hope you enjoyed the vibes. Cause look. If they start World War III, chat, look, if they start World War III, are you enlisting is the real question. Cause look, I might have to fucking just disappear. I might not even, bro. Cause the thing is, I feel like motherfuckers that get drafted, motherfuckers that go for the first like year or two, they're not coming back. We all know motherfuckers that go for the first year, they're not coming back. I might enlist like the last like year or two, like when I know like the temperatures are coming down, because I will make it back, you know. But a lot of motherfuckers go over, you know, in the war and they never come back. They get their shit blown up, like you lose a leg, limb. I'm not trying to do that. I like the way I'm moving around. And I feel like a lot of people really don't put credit into like the draft dodgers. I feel like draft dodgers are smart as hell. I don't know why. Why the fuck would you want to enlist? There's a lot of people that are like, bro, I'll enlist in a heartbeat. I said, no, motherfucker. You might just not have fucks to give. But as of midnight on January 1st, 2026, my fucks have been refilled. So I have a little bit of fucks to give. Maybe if I'm down bad enough, I might want to do that. But bro, I feel like the first motherfuckers to get shipped off to this fucking World War III, honestly, fuck it, not even getting shipped off. These motherfuckers are going to be dropping nukies. They're going to be dropping dookies everywhere, bro. Everything is going to be just a parking lot. There's no way. There's no fucking apparent way that we're not gonna turn into a fucking just flat ground. There's gonna be no mountains, no hills. It's just gonna be flat ground, chat. Look, World War III is inevitable. Like, there's nothing avoiding that. I cannot even lie to you. There's no avoiding that. There is no avoiding that. And I feel like these ICE raids and all this shit that Trump is doing is getting our prison population lit. You know, he's trying to up the prison population because at the end of the day, if we're being for real, these motherfuckers are gonna be the first line of defense. We've seen how, you know, Ukraine and Russia really duking it out. And what the fuck did Russia do? They threw their fucking, you know, whole prison population at them and see, hey, these motherfuckers were gonna be locked up for the next 10, 15 years at least. Let's go and throw them in that bitch. And what were they doing? Burning towns, burning cities. We're gonna see about the Ukraine and Russia war. We're gonna be reading about that shit in the next fucking 10 years in the history books, how bad that really was. Because you see it on TikTok. When it first started, we saw that shit on TikTok, how crazy it was. But now you don't hear about it much because people got goldfish brains, bro. Realistically, we all got goldfish brains. I know I'm just yapping, chat. I know. But the reality is nobody's trying to go fight for a war that they cannot come back from. Everybody wants to be a fucking war hero, but in all reality, you're gonna come back with a limb missing. And I don't want that for you. I don't want that for you. So hit the fucking like button, hit the notifications button, because if you're really about that life, go do it then. Go do it. I don't know. Go enlist. I'm not really about that war life. I'm not about that war life. I'm gonna just stay here, do stand up, do what I need to do. I'm gonna do my comedy. Hey, look, I'm gonna entertain. That's all I'm gonna do. If I enlist, I'm gonna go enlist. I'm gonna do boot camp. And they're like, what job do you want? I know that's not how it works, but I'm gonna be a comedian. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna just entertain the troops. That's all I'm here for. I can't do nothing. But I hope y'all had a good time. I hope you enjoyed. I really do. We're 3 days into the new year. And until next time, get some bitches on your dick!